We are live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon,
Elijah Jones.
and this is MMA Renegade episode 34.
34.
34.
Getting old there.
34, covering UFC 254. Elijah, how you doing, man?
I can't complain. It's a chilly Saturday here in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to switch my drawers, so now I have to put sweaters and all that up and take the t-shirt. So I'm a little sad about that. But can't complain. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Again, it's chilly on a Sunday morning. Got my orange
Mm-hmm.
juice, staying healthy, and I'm ready to talk about UFC 254.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, uh, UFC 254 was one for the books.
One we won't forget. I'll say that
True.
much.
True. 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 True.
So start us off, Elijah.
I'm glad you said that, Tyrese.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, actually last afternoon, UFC brought you another impressive UFC pay-per-view card. UFC 254 was in the books, taking place on Yas Island in the Abu Dhabi United Arab Emirates. Last night, we had the human highlight reel, Justin Gaethje versus the Eagle Khabib Nurmagomedov, the reigning standing lightweight champion of the world. We have a man who has gone 29-0 in his
Yep.
mixed martial arts career, going up against a man who has won a total of nine impressive UFC, fight. Oh, Lego Poppy TV said Khabib is the GOAT. Wait, thanks to start it off, Levy. I appreciate you. Justin Gaethje has won nine post-fight. What do you call those awards where he's spending 50 G's each. So we
Mm-hmm.
had two gentlemen who were really fighting, and as our co-main event, we had Robert the Weeper Whitaker versus the Killer Gorilla Jared Cannonier. Tyrese, how do you want to start this?
Let's start with the obvious one. Let's start with Khabib versus Gaethje.
Versus Gaethje.
So I impromptu did a live commentary stream yesterday, and I did it because yesterday's card was so great.
Mm-hmm.
Every fight delivered from the beginning of the last fight on the prelims with Tai Tuivasa beating Stephen Struve all the way up to the main event, and
Yeah,
I had to live stream because it was so good, and the last fight on the main card. Usually the main event, sometimes it can make or break a great card depending on how,
agreed.
how the fight goes. And the main event delivered. Khabib Nurmagomedov defeats Justin Gaethje in round two by submission via triangle choke. What do you want to say about this? What I would say is
Yeah,
Justin Gaethje went from being the guy that okay, he's technical now. He's reined it in a little bit. He's not as overzealous in the first round. Like the Tony Ferguson fight was like, okay, he's slowed down. He's more technical. He's somebody that could beat Khabib because his wrestling background and because of his knockout power. And
mm-hmm.
Khabib does what he does with almost every opponent. He's able to not only shut it down, he
Shut it
instills
down
fear. He instills fear in his opponents.
like they don't know, fear like they haven't felt before.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, it's got to be something to know that no matter what fight you're in, you can do the same thing and people can fear it. It just seems like the fear grows each and every time, in my
Right.
opinion, right? Because you worry about a guy like Khabib being able to take you down. You don't worry about the striking as much as the takedown because you know that's his bread and butter. So this is the guy you're going against who, if he wants, can take you down and have his way. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, he can do what he wants when you're on the ground. And that has to be the scariest part because as a fighter, you have to know there's not much you can do to stop that. Like, you can
Right.
stop it once, you can stop it twice. Hell, you can stop it for, let's say, for 4 rounds straight, right? That last
Mhm.
minute in the last round, if you don't stop it, he's got you. Low Coat says Justin was scared. He was running. He could not keep up with the pace. I think that's an excellent, I think everyone saw that he was a little more erratic in the first round, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to Tony Ferguson fight. I think obviously with two different opponents, that style can, being a little bit more methodical, taking your time, that can work with certain people. Unfortunately, that doesn't work with Khabib, right? Because the pressure he's putting on you is a result of him just knowing that he can take you down. So he's obviously going to get engaged with the striking to the point where you feel comfortable striking. And as soon as you feel comfortable and, what could be a jab, a kick, whatever, he gets you to the ground in a blink of an eye. That's the
Yeah,
issue, right? It's not like you're struggling, you're fighting enough little. It's like he may have an entry and you kind of stuff it, but there's always a plan B through Z. And that seems to be the issue with Khabib. Gaethje set a very high pace for himself. He started off very well with keeping the octagon, moving laterally, but he started to get more erratic in his behavior, and he reacted to everything. What was actually interesting to see after the first, after the fight went down, apparently a lot of the judges scored the first round for Justin Gaethje.
really.
Yeah, they were saying that. I saw it on social media. I think it was like MMA fighting or something like that. They were talking about on some people's cards, Khabib lost that first round.
Interesting. I definitely didn't see it that way. And shout out to Loco. We appreciate you, man. See, interesting. You said that Justin Gaethje started off good. I thought he started off terrible from the jump. I thought he looked like he didn't belong. Like there was moments where in the first round where he has his hands low because he's trying to defend a takedown, but he also ducking his head low at the same time. So he's like this, and he's swinging with overhand rights, trying to counter Khabib coming in, and he was aiming at there. I was like, "What are you doing?"
But that started to get what I want to say that happened some round. I want to say the first 45 seconds to the minute of that first round, Justin Gaethje did very well with distance control. He didn't back out. He didn't go inside. He didn't go outside the inner circle, the octagon. He didn't go outside that. He moved laterally. He landed really good leg kicks. Had Khabib almost not falling down, but he had Khabib stopping in his tracks with the leg kicks. Then when Khabib starts to really turn the pressure on and get in his face, that's when you start to see that erratic behavior, biting on everything, biting on feints, getting hit, trying to counter Khabib with everything he's got, using a shell to come down and wait to try to counter, but it just wouldn't work. And Khabib has a chin. A lot of people were wondering how his chin will hold up. Khabib has a chin because he in that first round, he took I want to say 2 to 3 big shots.
Yeah, there was maybe 1 or 2 shots, but like those weren't like it wasn't like anything where Justin Gaethje planned his feet down and really put down and try to swing. It was erratic overhand rights from a position where he can't even see Khabib. Like his eyes are down and he's swinging. It wasn't like he was looking at Khabib and aiming for Khabib. He was swinging at trying to find Khabib if he was coming in.
Yeah.
And the thing about it was also the leg kicks. I thought the leg kicks would have came into play from the beginning.
Well, he landed a leg kick in the first in the beginning.
Round. The second round.
No, he landed leg kicks in the first round, Tyreece. He landed leg kicks in the first round. He landed 3, I believe. He landed one to start off the fight, and then he landed one. He started picking up more, and then he brought leg kicks again in the second round, but it didn't matter. He started off with leg kicks very well.
Right, but in comparison, Khabib was doing more of the leg kicks in the first round. I think that's why I don't remember Justin Gaethje throwing leg kicks, because Khabib was the one that was throwing the most leg kicks in the first round. Which again, Justin Gaethje, Khabib was just throwing anything he can to make Justin Gaethje react to it, and Justin Gaethje just moving around, circling around, to where it just seemed like he really couldn't get himself going.
I think again, the pressure alone was just it was a lot.
Right.
The pressure was a lot for him. You could physically see how much pressure was going to him, and that was the issue, right? That was the biggest issue, is that he's like kind of like just throwing. He's kind of like, oh, like he's on me. Let me see where it's going. He's on me. And it's interesting because the fight statistics says that the first round they were even on strikes. And then going into the second round, when he got him down, it just was like this. The way he massively landed in mount was just crazy to me.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Like Justin Gaethje threw out of the. I'm looking at the fight metrics here. Out of the Khabib did only throw 1 leg kick throughout the whole match, and then Justin Gaethje drew 15. So Gaethje, the fight stats here show that Gaethje was landing leg kicks. It wasn't enough.
Repeat what you just said again.
The fight metrics. If you look at the stats from the fight, out of all the who threw leg kicks, Justin Gaethje landed 15. Khabib only landed 1.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Because I know from the first round, Khabib landed about 4 or 5 leg kicks.
I don't know why. I don't know why the Fight Metrics has this.
Yeah.
I think it's a little interesting. They also have, it's a little weird, right? Because it has significant strikes. Out of the 80 that Khabib threw, landed 26, and out of the 45 Justin Gaethje drew, he landed 29.
All right, that's weird. That's weird.
It's
All right, so
I'll have to go back and watch this fight, really, but there's not much
yeah,
fight to watch if we talk about it, right? We only have
yeah,
about maybe 6 minutes worth of fight.
yeah,
Six, right? Maybe
yeah,
6 minutes,
yeah, because could be,
maybe
oh
7.
yeah, because what the second round ended like, with 2 minutes in?
Yeah, almost 2 minutes in. Almost two
Yeah,
minutes in it. Like, yeah, so like we only have 7 minutes of almost 8 minutes of actual fight. Regardless of what happened, I think when Trevor Whitman in the corner, you heard him in Gaethje's corner saying "slow
yeah,
down." That was
yeah.
probably the greatest piece of advice that anyone could have given. I wish we had seen Khabib's corner, but that was the best advice because again, like you said, the erratic, he bit on every single thing. Khabib threw feints, which showed an evolution in striking.
Yeah, I thought also the a knee up the middle was there for Khabib if he wanted it. I think he tried to go for a flying knee, but it hit the
Yeah, he
body.
did, right?
Yeah,
I feel like I remember that.
a knee to the it was a knee to the body, but there was a knee up the middle. Again, he having his hands low, not looking really at where Khabib is at, and just trying to swing. I kept saying the knee is there, the knee is there, the knee is there. If Khabib wants to get it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Because Gaethje, when he gets into those brawls, he shells up like this, right, to cover up. I
Right.
think I don't necessarily say he'll have his face down because he hunches over, but he tends to look up. And then when you have it like this, there can be an issue in terms of vision. I don't know if he had his face fully like down, but I do know in that kind of shell, Khabib could land.
Yeah.
He could land those knees up the middle. That also, but having that shell makes it significantly harder for you to take somebody down, right? Because your hips
Yeah.
are already low. And I think that was the plan, right? I think the plan sort of was we can take the striking to a certain extent, but we can't risk the wrestling engagements.
Mm.
I think that had to be like the overall theme here. And that's any fighter with Khabib, right? It's like we'll see how the striking goes, right? We don't know how, if he's going to be the Muhammad Ali and dance around you, which obviously he's not, or if he's going to knock you out. But you're willing to take a chance on the striking before you're willing to take a chance on the wrestling, way before.
Yeah.
But again, you don't get much time with guys like Khabib, right? Khabib, he does what he does best. He takes you down, he wrestles you, gets you in a position, and submits you.
Yeah. And before we get to after the fight, I want to say this. I got killed a little bit for saying that Conor McGregor can possibly beat Khabib. But when you look back at it, Conor McGregor is the only person to give Khabib an actual fight. Out of Dustin Poirier, out of Justin Gaethje, he's the only one that had using his stance and using his ability of just space and understanding space between Khabib and himself. He's the only one that thinks he got it right.
I'll say this. I'll disagree with you when you said he got it right because he didn't beat Khabib. That's the only reason why I'm going to say that. But I
Okay.
think Conor had the best formula to match Khabib's style. I think in rewatching that fight, which I did this past weekend, that
Yeah.
first round not only showed it's interesting because there's a lot of southpaws who tend to be like with wide stance, almost kind of karate style, but not karate style. And Levy said Khabib was controlling the whole fight with McGregor.
No,
I
he
think
wasn't.
Khabib lateral.
He wasn't.
I'll say this. I think the one thing about Khabib that a lot of people don't realize in that fight with McGregor is that his lateral movement around, going back and forth, was to bait Conor, and I think that worked perfectly into his plan. You could make the argument that he was leading because of that, or you can make the argument after when he finally got him down, was able to land punches. He destroyed him and broke his spirit. But I will say a lot of people don't give Khabib's. It's not necessarily his striking; it's his difference overall. A lot of people don't give it the credit because that fight kind of detailed that he understands how Conor's power and Conor has the understanding of range, and he's just using Conor against it because he ended up getting a knockdown on the guy who hasn't been knocked down in X amount of fights. I'm sorry, not X amount of fights. He hasn't been like knocked down just like that easily, right?
Mm.
You got to get. Everyone knows if you want to knock down Conor, you get him tired. Nate Diaz showed that. Get Conor tired, you can knock him down. But he knocked down a fresh Conor McGregor. So that was
Yeah,
one of the things.
yeah. Nate Diaz never knocked down Conor. It was more of a Conor was taken
Conor
down.
was tired. He got caught.
Yeah,
He
but
knocked him down.
Conor
Stop.
took Nate Diaz down. It wasn't
Yeah.
like Nate Diaz dropped him. But even going back to Levy's point of Khabib was controlling him the whole fight. Go back and look at that third round. That third round, Conor was able to stuff the takedowns and when able to keep it on the feet and able to make it a fair fight. And I say the reason why I bring up Conor is because it seems like that stance of that wide stance and his ability to know space. Like when you look at Dustin Poirier's thought was he can try to reverse the wrestling. It wasn't like I'm going to keep my back away from the cage. And that's nothing Conor did. Conor wasn't putting his back against the cage. Khabib was digging in those takedowns and was able to go against the cage. It wasn't like Justin Gaethje, his back was against the cage. Dustin Poirier back against the cage. Conor McGregor tried to keep it in the middle of the octagon. It just Khabib's pressure was able to bring it to the cage.
Well, if I'm being honest with you, Gaethje did a pretty good job keeping the back off the cage.
Oh no!
Yes, he did. Because the reason he didn't get the takedown till till the last 30 seconds of round 1, which was pretty impressive. He kept what you got to look at is when you keep your back. You're saying keep the back off the cage. That means you have to be physically on the cage. Gaethje wasn't on the cage.
No,
if you're leaning back on the cage, are you saying that he didn't do a great job with Are you? I just want to clarify this. Are you saying he didn't do a good job staying off the cage, or he didn't do a good job keeping his back to the cage? Because in theory, your back is always to the cage. Are you saying that he didn't do a good job with staying off the fence?
Yes, I'm saying when you look at the Justin Gaethje fight again, right? When I say back against the cage, I'm not necessarily saying him actually literally putting his back on the cage. I'm saying the space between where the cage is at and where he is. That's what I'm talking about. Like Conor stayed more towards the center of the octagon, and Khabib was able to dig and take them and take him all the way to the cage. Justin Gaethje was more leaning more towards the back of the cage than anything. That's the point.
I'll say this: Justin Gaethje, Khabib didn't get a takedown till late round 1, which is kind of similar to the Conor fight, right? He didn't get a takedown.
He wasn't looking for a takedown.
But listen, he didn't get a takedown till late round 1 against Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje did well controlling the octagon, but the issue with JT is that he tired himself out running. He didn't, not that he was just running, but he bit on every single thing Khabib threw at him, and he put a different kind of pressure on Gaethje than he did on Conor. It seemed that he came super close and he pushed him back, but Gaethje, not at one point, he was inside the octagon, and laterally. He moved outward, but we still came back to the center. Conor's approach with the southpaw was a little bit different. Conor tried to secure that, and then what happened was the takedown at both of those fights at the end of the round were too different, right? Conor got shot in the middle of the octagon almost, right? Yeah. And then he brought into the cage. Gaethje, he caught him by the cage, right? So that's one big difference. I'm not disagreeing with you saying. I'm just telling you how that went. The second time he got taken down in round 2, what ended up happening is that Gaethje was actually on the and towards the middle, and Khabib's back was towards the octagon. Khabib shot, Gaethje sprawled. Khabib ended up in a scramble where he able to bring Gaethje to his back through his left side. That's what ended up happening. It wasn't as if Khabib, Gaethje was on his back when he got taken out in that second round. His back was not towards the octagon. I mean, sorry, no, it wasn't.
Because Justin Gaethje throw a leg kick. Justin Gaethje's back is towards the octagon. Khabib throws a leg. I mean, Justin Gaethje throws a leg kick. Khabib goes for a double leg, spins around, takes Justin Gaethje's back, and then goes to full mount.
But you got to look at
Justin Gaethje's back.
He spun to his left. His back wasn't toward the cage when he got taken down. He spun.
Yeah, he spun.
I'll let you continue talking right now because I'm gonna go watch the clip right now. All right, you can bring that up. I'm just gonna watch the clip.
Sure, but Justin Gaethje's back was was more towards the cage than Khabib was not. His back wasn't towards the cage. That's one. 2, Justin Gaethje's back was towards the cage, and Khabib was able to counter the leg kick, go to a double leg and switch to and able to go into full mount. To
I'm gonna.
Justin Gaethje tried to defend putting his back towards the cage on the ground position, but landed in the full mount. That's how I remember the sequence.
I'm gonna double check that again.
Yeah, it was Khabib. It was Khabib trying to get his back, and then he was able to get into full mount. But that was all the cage was also an influence on there because Justin Gaethje didn't want to lean against the fence. That's how I remember the sequence. I could be wrong, and I'm cool with being wrong, but that's how I remember the sequence, and that's why I just bring up the point of Conor McGregor, where Conor McGregor, it felt like his Justin Gaethje and Conor McGregor's approach is different, and the pressure is different because Conor McGregor reacted well to the pressure of Khabib. Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier didn't.
I agree. Yes. The bottom line is we're not arguing to the people watching. We're not arguing whether or not. I mean, obviously, we're talking and trying to figure out this last sequence that ended, the fight with Justin Gaethje. But we're not disagreeing on the Conor point. We're not disagreeing on that at all. I agree that Conor had the better style to fight this fight.
Yes, it's important to know. Like talking about positioning again is so important because, like, if you're trying to crack the code, and we're both trying to decipher and trying to crack the code of Khabib, that's part of the code. Is how do you maintain positioning where Khabib doesn't have a chance to go for a takedown and get it when you're back against the cage? How can you stand at the center of the octagon against somebody that's so pressure heavy? Like these are things that you try to crack the code, and how do you beat Khabib? And there has been nobody that's able to do it.
No, it's just not. It's not. The issue is it's not easily done. Because you have to worry about there's like these little minute scrambles almost. They're not scrambled. They're not even scrambled. I would call it's just like how does he get how does he get superior positioning in these moments?
Right. And for Justin Gaethje, who is a decorated wrestler, like having a cage to help the person he's fighting against, he's wrestling against, is not there. You know what I'm saying? Like Justin Gaethje doesn't have to worry about a cage in college or whatever. He has to worry about a cage in the UFC, and that's what makes the difference between talking about how good of a wrestler Justin Gaethje is to MMA wrestling.
They're just different categories.
Yes. But Khabib wins by triangle. He announces after the fight that he's going to retire. Everybody's showing their respect, rightfully so, of Khabib and how he is one of the greatest ever, and he's one of the best to ever do it. And some even throwing pound for pound, and some even saying he stands at the Mount Rushmore of the best in the UFC.
Okay, so to initiate the sequence, he throws a leg kick. His back is towards the cage. Khabib shoots. Justin Gaethje sprawls outward, so his back is actually. So it's the position he switches where Justin Gaethje is now closer towards the center of the octagon. Khabib's back is towards the towards the cage.
It was a double leg to a spin.
He double leg and a spun, and then again that's when he spins again and gets him down. And that's although his back started that way, that's not the position they ended up in. Khabib used the momentum to just keep spinning. So we're technically both right, technically both wrong. But regardless of the point, they end up in mount.
Yes.
And it's also interesting. Sorry, I'm just rewatching it. It's interesting that Khabib can be so decisive in what he wants, where he says, I can literally just end the fight right here. Go ahead. Happy to see you here. Hope you're doing well. Khabib's pressure reminds me of those nightmares that you have when the monster is chasing you and you just can't get away. Relentless stalking. Yeah. Again, Tyreece is making a point just now talking about Khabib lightweight. I just want to make one last point before we move on to the go. Again with the Conor point too. I think Khabib's pressure works only because they were both orthodox.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it came to Conor's southpaw striking and Conor's just the level of Conor being as good as he is, I think overall Conor had the better game plan. It has the better style for Khabib. I don't know about the game plan because I can't, I'm not in the camp or whatever. But I know from what I've seen in these two fights, obviously one fight was longer than the other. Conor has the better style. And their coach Mendez even said this. Though. He said, "I still think Conor's a big threat to Khabib." He said that in a pre-fight scrum that Conor is still a big threat to Khabib. That's just it. But yes, Tyreece was talking about people saying Khabib is the greatest of all time, or what was the talk you were saying?
It was indeed that. It was Khabib was one of the greatest UFC fighters. I hope they classified as that. One of the greatest UFC fighters or best pound for pound fighters the UFC has ever seen. Let's start with love first. Let's start with love. I think Khabib legacy will go down as one of the most dominant fighters that maybe he didn't really get to see the full potential of Khabib and really what he could have done in this division. And the reason why I say that is Khabib had his record early, and like when he finally got the big names because of whatever reason why people couldn't fight him at the time, or he couldn't get a title shot at the time. Mm-hmm. The people that he fought just never like he fought against Ali Quinta. He to win a championship. He then beats Conor. He then beats Justin Poirier. He then beats Justin Gaethje. He also has Edson Barboza on his record. Like I just feel like there's still a lot more that Khabib could have done in his career to really solidify himself as one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time.
I think you're not wrong in that statement. And the reason why, when we look at people who we consider the GOATs, right?
Yes.
Anderson Silva popped up on the scene versus Chris Lieben, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dismantled Chris Lieben.
Was going to retire.
They're like, huh?
Was going to retire. Like he was going to retire.
You know, beats Rich Franklin, one of the most like, you know, heavily touted UFC middleweights of all time, right? Mm-hmm. Rich Franklin is a guy who basically was on the not on the Ultimate Fighter, but he was a fighter who like had a team on the Ultimate Fighter. Rich Franklin's knockout of Nate Quarry is on almost all UFC promos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Almost all UFC promos. Rich Franklin beats him twice. Beats Dan Henderson, who had the middleweight belt for Pride. United those two belts.
Right.
He moves up in weight, beats Stephan Bonner, beats the first Ultimate Fighter winner, Forrest Griffin. Moves back down, has some fights like Patrick Cote where it's like, you know, he's like showing off, you know, that's when people were like, all right, he's a showboating. Spectacular knockout again, UFC highlight on Vitor Belfort.
Right.
The list goes on for a guy like Anderson Silva, right? We consider Anderson Silva one of the greatest of all times.
Right.
We consider Jon Jones one of the greatest of all times. Now, Jon Jones didn't move up, right? That's the one thing we never got from him. But Jon Jones became a champion at 23.
Right.
I don't know what you were doing at 23. I don't know what many people are doing at 23. But many people aren't winning in a sport that not only is so dominating in the physicality like that at 23. Regular people, you know, athletes, of course, they're doing that thing, but most people aren't doing that in MMA, especially an ever-growing sport. So when we look at Khabib as being the greatest of all time, I can't give him that title. But what I can give him is Khabib is not only one of the most dominating UFC fighters of all time, he's without a doubt the best lightweight UFC has ever seen.
And that's where I agree with you. I think Khabib will go down as one of the best lightweights the UFC has ever seen. I think Khabib will go down as, you know what, and this could always change, right? Because
it can.
Like for me, when we talk about greatest of all time, I also think about influence as well. Like Jon Jones is an influence; it has influence. Anderson Silva has an influence. You know, Anderson Silva probably is spawning one of the greatest UFC fighters that may go down as the greatest, and Israel Adesanya. So that's when I look at influence as well, and I look at what you've done in your career. You know, maybe Khabib spawns off other fighters from Dagestan or from Europe or from Russia. Like maybe he's able to spawn off a style where everybody tries to mimic. Which we're already seeing it a little bit now, but if that could be if Khabib influence is felt in MMA moving forward, I think that brings up his legacy even more.
I'll say this. with Khabib, if Khabib retired last night, obviously anyone
Yeah.
who's watching or anyone seen it, Khabib retired. What happens now is crucial, right? The UFC doesn't have a lightweight champion. That's okay. There's always gonna be someone to fight for the belt because they have a lightweight division. But it's now, what does Khabib do with the people that not only his father was training, but the new up and coming AKA and things like that. That's where we kind of want to know what's going to be happening. And at age of 29, it's kind of interesting because he's not, some people could even say he's probably never even reached his physical prime yet, right? A lot of people could make that argument.
My bad, dude. It got so fucking cold outside. It's like I can't do it. I
couldn't
do it.
No, you bugging. But anywho, I'll keep talking. Yeah. Khabib, you just don't know what happens now with Khabib, and that's okay, right? We know we got everything we've gotten. There isn't anything for him to do again in the lightweight world. There really isn't. He's beaten all the top guys. He cleaned out an era of lightweights who were pretty good, like Abel Trujillo, Pat Healy. He cleaned out a lot of those guys, right? Fights the new age guys, destroys them, has the same result that he had from the very first fight in UFC. And at this point, it's okay if he retires. The issue is, can he be considered the GOAT? No. Can he be considered a phenomenal fighter? Yes. Can we be considered the greatest lightweight that UFC has ever had? As of right now, yes. Yes. Those are titles we can give him. He's accomplished those accolades. He's beaten Conor McGregor, one of the most touted lightweights of all time, right? But when it comes to being the greatest of all time, it's just not right now.
Yeah, so I even created a GOAT list yesterday. Just after the fight, I was like, people kept talking about GOAT list. Daniel Cormier put Khabib over John Jones, which I thought was crazy.
I think he did it on purpose to fuck with Jones, in my opinion. But
I don't think it's because of his love for Khabib, and I respect that.
Yeah.
My GOAT list, and you could say if this is almost similar to yours. Number one for me is John Jones. Number two is GSP. Right. Number three is Anderson Silva. I put number four Daniel Cormier. I put Daniel Cormier over Khabib.
Yeah.
Number five is Stipe Miocic. Number six, I put Khabib. Number seven, Amanda Nunes. Number eight, I even put Conor in a GOAT list. And then number nine, I put Mighty Mouse. And then number 10 gets tricky, honestly, because like you could put Jose Aldo in there, you could put Dominic Cruz in there, you could put Henry Cejudo in there, you could put Verdum in there, you could put early BJ Penn, like, but like that to me is like the
greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Like I would probably go John Jones, and my issue with 2 and 3 is that GSP and Anderson Silva are always. I'm gonna go Anderson Silva.
Okay.
Before I go to I'm going to, and that's the only change I would make on that list. That's it. That's the only one.
Yeah,
but that's a list of greatest of all times.
Yeah, I think for me, like I also value a reason why I put GSP and the reason why I put Daniel Cormier over Stipe and why I have reason why I say that is because I value the ability to win a championship in two divisions. I think that's a huge, like to take that risk of your legacy and go in another weight class and win a championship. I think that puts you amongst the greatest of all time.
I think being a champ, right? The idea of being champ was something that's been done before, right? A lot of people don't realize David Branch, before he was in UFC, he was in World Series of Fighting. He was light heavyweight and light middleweight. Sorry, light middleweight. That's not a thing. I'm not boxing. He was, a lot of people forget, he was the light heavyweight and the middleweight champion of World Series of Fighting at the same time. So the champ existed before, but the popularity that came from Conor gave it even more of a contingency, gave it even more value, because when you really look at it, when you really look at what's happening, right, to go up in a weight class, and you know what, the weight class might even be your natural weight class, but that's not the point, right? To compete at a different level means that you have to not only think about your game, you have to think about the game that you're currently going, evolve your game, but you have to now factor in the bigger and badder opponents.
Right.
So that's why I agree. I think Khabib, again, is
number 6.
Will eventually could eventually be considered the GOAT, but as of right now, the GOAT takes you gotta that takes time. You don't just get that.
Yeah,
he's the greatest of all time in the lightweight division. Yes, is he the GOAT overall, like the number one pound for pound? It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I think number 6 is not bad. I think to be number 6 on a top 10 of fighters that ever graced the UFC, like that is an achievement.
Agreed. And remember, UFC holds anywhere between 500 to 600 fighters a year.
And then put in the decades of UFC has been around. So
What, 20 plus years?
I want to say what 1996, right? 1996.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's two decades, 2.5 decades.
Come on. It's
So
just,
it's not the worst thing in the world to be number 6. That's what I'm saying.
no.
No.
I agree. Oh, actually, it was founded in 1993, Tyreece.
Okay, I thought so as well, but I was like, what, from the safe side, 1996.
Yeah, but no, like you're right. Like you got to understand something. Like this is, and all these like out of all these fighters, the top 10 list is perfect. I think those guys you listed, it's fine. And the women, of course, Amanda Nunes is definitely, without a doubt, one of the greatest mixed martial artists on the world.
I may even fuck around and put Amanda Nunes over Khabib. Honestly, if we're being completely honest, I may even fuck around and put her above Khabib because
She beat the most woman.
Yes, she beat Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm, Cyborg. Did she beat Miesha Tate? No, she didn't beat Miesha Tate. She did beat Miesha Tate.
To get the belt.
Oh yeah. She did. Yeah, like, and she still has way more to go, and she's already a champion in both weight classes. She's defeating everybody left and right. Yeah. I think I may even fuck around and put Amanda Nunes over Khabib, just because of how dominant she is, but also taking risk against people that are bigger than her.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what's next for the lightweight division? I honestly think a fight between Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor for the lightweight title makes sense.
Vacant lightweight title, agreed. It's the only. Yeah, I mean, it sucks that Conor will get a belt right away, but what this does was it creates a scenario. One, Conor gets the belt back and he can finally defend in the lightweight division like he was thinking like he could. He never did defend. He won the belt but never defend, and that's a lot of people that doesn't cement him as the top people, one of the GOATs as well. But and it also sets up Poirier back in that picture. The second thing it does, it also creates a scenario that if Khabib wanted to come back under any circumstances, he could come back and get that Conor rematch.
And it also sets up, if Dustin Poirier was to beat Conor, then you could do the rematch between Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje
for the belt.
For the belt, you could also do a scenario where you could do Tony Ferguson can slide into that picture as well, and maybe fight Justin Gaethje in a rematch, or Justin Gaethje in a rematch.
Oh yeah, agreed. Agreed.
There's a many things they can do, but I think the right move. And you know what? Honestly, I would do it, even though maybe inactivity. But I think Conor McGregor, that fight makes sense. Not because just Conor McGregor is I'm not trying to be in favoritism of him, but realistically, Khabib was their draw. And I don't know if pay-per-view still matter to the UFC because of this whole ESPN deal, but it would make sense if you lose one of your biggest draws to then slide in Conor McGregor to be the biggest draw again.
That's how you start off 2021.
Yeah.
That's a good way to start 2021, get those viewerships back. It's possible. I agree. Last night we were talking about it. I think the only fight that makes sense to get someone the belt, give Conor and Dustin now. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think that fight makes sense for the belt.
And for Gaethje, I don't think this is the end of him in any way, shape, or form. He's still at the apex of UFC's lightweight division. I think for me, I would like to have Gaethje. He got choked out, so obviously he may not have to take a suspension too long. But if Gaethje fights next year, take the rest of the year off. If he fights next year, I'd love to see him against, he has some really good potential matchups like Michael Chandler. He could fight, if you really wanted to make that fight happen, my boy Dan Hooker. That's a possibility. There's a lot of more possibilities with Khabib going, because now you have a wild west of who can get to the belt first, who gets the champion. You know what I mean? So it's
And
those fights are possible for Gaethje.
and then you also have the fact of you may have Max Holloway.
You may
You
get
may
hot. Well,
you may get you may get Holloway in there.
you may get Holloway. Holloway is one fight, in my opinion, away from a belt if done correctly.
Yeah, like it sets this whole lightweight division on fire because now the possibilities are endless. When the title was vacant, everything's out the window, and like all these new challenges come up. Even somebody like Ali Quince or Kevin Lee or like people.
You can even see Diego Pereira, who's been on a win streak.
Yeah.
You have guys like Paul Felder, who really doesn't fight. Charles Oliveira, right? Like now you have matchups. You can pick, choose, he, hoo, fight. Because now we have a free for all.
Exactly. So somebody said the UFC would never be the same without Khabib. I say this: the UFC is a revolving door. When one person leaves, whether it's retirement or gets released or whatever, new opportunities arise, and now I think we're gonna see some fun times in lightweight division.
Again, Tyreece, we always refer to if the champion vacates or goes to another belt, a weight class, you have a wild west.
Right.
You could come outside, get shot. You could shoot. You could rock. You could, anything happens. Anything happens. Anything goes. So yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see. But all in all, much respect to Khabib.
Yes.
The triangle choke was perfect. Set it up perfectly. Landed him out. Then you see the transition. I mean, as a guy who watches jiu-jitsu and has done jiu-jitsu, phenomenal. And great fight. I'm sure he made his dad happy. I respect his wishes to retire. And so I wish him nothing but the best in life. And to Gaethje, this man, it is what it is.
Yeah, and like I don't want to see Khabib. If I'm being honest, I don't want to see Khabib fight again. I think it's a storybook ending where it's a perfect, like, you don't get perfect chapters like this to close with where you finish out on top and you end your career. Also, like when we talked about his family and not having his dad with him and his mom wanting him to stop fighting.
Yeah.
And he's been talking about retirement like way before all of this. I honestly don't want to see him fight. I want him. I think now we talked about with Daniel Cormier. I think now Khabib has a bigger role in MMA than he did as a champion. I think now he can be an ambassador for
the Dagestanian,
for Dagestanian, for Russia, for other international fighters that may not be on the rise in the UFC or may not be on the radar of the UFC. He can help bring them over and be that talent liaison. And also just him as a trainer as well. Like I think there's so much more life in him in his martial arts than fighting.
I agree. I don't think he necessarily joins. I don't think he joins UFC as that crucial guy. I do think MMA as a whole, like his father did. I think he's going to take up a similar role like his father and be that liaison. And I wouldn't be upset. Shit, I'd go train. Once Corona should go over, I'd go train too over there. I wouldn't mind.
You wouldn't do that, but I definitely would.
We're booking a trip. We're booking a trip. It's been done.
I am not going to Russia.
And I'm choking you out. It's been decided.
If my ass can't take New York weather, I'm not going to Russia. But I think the UFC would be stupid not to sign Khabib to a deal.
Like, I don't think he'll win.
If I'm the UFC, I'm throwing money at Khabib and like, hey, listen, we need you as a talent liaison or somebody that can scout talent or somebody that can like maybe build a facility in Russia. I think they already have maybe, but build a facility in Russia and that where you could start your Apex center over there, and that's how you could train maybe ultimate fighters in Russia or in that region. Like there's so much Khabib can do past fighting that I think his biggest fight is now post fighting and doing things where he can move the sport forward.
I agree. Moving on to the whole main event. We won't have to spend too much time here. Robert the Reaper Whittaker beats Jared Cannonier by decision.
Mm-hmm.
Tyreece, what's your take on this fight? Oh, at least tell us your thoughts before and then leading into the fight and seeing what you saw.
My thoughts were that Rob Whitaker was going to outclass Derek Cannonier. I thought technically he was just a better fighter, and I thought he was going to be able to not take too much damage and to be able to stick and move. And that's exactly what he did. He was able to use his jab effectively. And one of the things I noticed, like in the second round, go back and watch the live commentary that I was doing. I said every time Jared Cannonier takes a jab, he's ducking his head off to the right. He kept doing it over and over and over again, especially in the second round.
Yeah.
And that head kick was ready.
I think you mean left because it's the right head kick.
Yeah.
It's the right head kick.
Left.
No, remember, when I talked to you about Robert Whitaker, right? When I used to talk to you about him before, I'd be like, there's not too many people who can throw that combination well. Not so many people who can follow up on the same side. And when I mean that, I mean throw a punch with your lead hand and throw a kick with that same lead leg. That's not an easy trained skill, right? Robert Whitaker has a style where his hands are low. Robert Whitaker has a stance where he kind of stands almost like it's karate and leans forward heavy on that leg.
Yeah.
And interesting, right? Because it's not a Taekwondo style, but he leans over, has his hands like a little low, closer towards his abdomen, maybe his hips area, and can shoot that jab up real quick, right? We always talk about this. Jab that's not in front of your face is the hardest to see because it comes from below. So you have to look down and react.
Right.
With that being said, throwing the jab. You hear in one of I think it was the second round where it was like, he only has a jab, he has nothing else for you. And I was like,
the head kick.
He throws the jab, lands the head kick. I was like, that is what you have to worry about with Robert Whitaker, right? The way he throws it, he did Yo Romero. He's done it. He's actually, if you look at tape of him when he was on the rise, fought guys like Jacare, fought Derek Brunson, fought Yo Romero once and twice. That combination has always been there. The one head kick, right? One head kick. He's able to stumble Yo Romero. He finished Derek Brunson off of it, and he also finished Jacare off of it.
Right.
So it's actually interesting. And what I heard from the post fight, and just reading Jared Cannonier's Instagram and Twitter post, I think, was that Jared Cannonier, at the first head kick that he threw in the very opening after, Jared Cannonier was starting off very well with leg kicks, which I want to mention was very impressive on the part, because you slow Whitaker's mobility down, you basically take out one of his biggest tools. But the first kick that he throws and it lands against his left arm, he apparently that kick broke his forearm.
Really?
Yeah. So
okay.
And things like that. The issue happened to be that Robert Whitaker ended up breaking his arm while kicking him, and that's actually a very common MMA injury. A lot of people don't realize that, the blocking and things like that, because this is not a very thick bone, right? Those high kicks those are dangerous. How many times have we seen people's lights get turned off completely? So apparently that first round he ended up breaking his left forearm.
That makes this one even more impressive for Robert Whitaker when you go back and think about just how the setups that he did. But Robert Whitaker beats Jared Cannonier. I think we're both in the agreement that Izzy Adesanya versus Robert Whitaker is the next fight to make.
The only fight that would trump that would be Jones versus Izzy.
But I don't want to see that now. Like I have little care for it.
I will say this. I definitely don't feel the same way you do about it, but I will say I don't know when that fight happens. That's the biggest issue. Izzy himself said 2021 fight week. We'll see. That also gets dependent on whether or not he defends the title. If Jones goes up to heavyweight, then comes back down, that could be a potential issue, So there's a lot of factors. We don't know how next year plays out. But as of right now, I agree. Robert Whitaker is technically the next guy to fight Israel Adesanya.
Yeah, the Jones one to me is like I've had enough of the Twitter back and forth where we're gonna fight, we're not gonna fight, we're gonna fight, we're not gonna fight, we're not gonna. You're this, you that. I'm over that. To me, the back and forth bickering between the two, I don't really care for. And if leading up to a fight week, I wouldn't care much more either, because I'm just tired of it now.
Is it no, gentlemen.
Well, no, it's more Izzy Adesanya. Izzy Adesanya keeps saying that he keeps going jabs at John Jones, and then also saying I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna take my time. And John Jones keeps
Yeah.
replying back, which is like it's back and forth. But anyway, I like Rob Whitaker. To me, I'm interested to see this fight because I think it's a different Rob Whitaker. I think his mindset, maybe not skill wise, but the mindset is a lot different to where you like leading up to the fight. You see, he looked exhausted. He looked like there was a lot going on in his mind. You look like the fights and the
The
injuries were
wars.
starting. Yeah, like that was playing a big toll on him.
Well, having
I,
a collapse will do that to you.
Yeah. So like yeah, what was that the day before, the day of
The
he
day
had
of.
yeah,
The day of.
yeah. So I think it's just a healthier, different Robert Whitaker, and I think that person stylistically, I think presents a different matchups because now I believe Whitaker's head is in the game.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not gonna stand in front of Israel Adesanya and try to throw down. I think he's going to be more. He's gonna have more movement. I think he's gonna have a different approach. That's why I'm more excited to see Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whitaker now.
I don't disagree. I think what made Robert Whitaker hit the best, right? Because if you look at the things to do, they're not simple, but they're not obviously after training years, they probably won't be too hard for everyone to do. What makes him the best is that Robert Whitaker not only has heart, his determination, right?
Yes.
When you look at the Derek Brunson fight, Derek Brunson came at him like a you ever seen the Ballad of Ricky Bobby? In the
Yes.
movie, he's like, I'm gonna come at you like a spider monkey. Like that was the definition of coming at someone like a spider monkey, right? Like he came just wild, ended up hurting him, but the perseverance of Whitaker's tough. He bites down. Whitaker is willing to get into those brawls because he can also be smart in those type of situations. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. Whitaker has shown that he not only has the intelligence for offensive and defense, but he's able to weather those storms.
Yes.
So I mean, with a guy as dangerous as Whitaker is, again, the tool sets don't change, right? But with a game that where everyone's bringing all the tool sets because you have to, the determinant is the mentality,
Yes.
the mental, and that's the thing that changes in a meeting between those two again. So if Robert Whitaker fought Stylebender, I can't guarantee. I can guarantee one thing: one of those guys gets finished.
I
I think
I
both
I, I can see that.
ability.
I
I,
can
I
see that.
guarantee both of them have the finishing ability. The question is who gets finished.
Yeah. I just think it'd be more of a chess match too. I think as well.
Yeah,
More of a chess match.
I agree.
Yeah.
I
So
agree. And then I'm saying if for Jared Cannonier, I don't think this is the end of him, but I think this is a very, 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 very important lesson in terms of this, not the skill gap, but the gap in competition between the guys in the top 10, the top
mhm,
5, and then the top 3.
right.
That's a very big skill gap, right? Not skill gap, sorry, but like it's a very big. It seems to be like he's the pinnacle of the sport, but there's a reason Robert Whitaker is one.
Right.
So
And
good.
I would say I would love to see Jared Cannonier versus Paulo Acosta.
I actually would like to. I would actually say I would like to see Derek Brunson versus Paulo Costa. For some
Okay.
reason, that fight. For some reason, that fight tells me like I want to see that. Jared Cannonier. Right. When we look at the UFC rankings for middleweight,
Mhm.
we have Robert Whitaker as 1, Cannonier is number 2, Costa's 3, Hermansson's 4, Yoel 5, Darren Till 6, Derek Brunson 7, Kevin Gastelum 8. I wouldn't with and then Chris Weidman 9, Uriah Hall 10. I wouldn't mind seeing. I guess everyone's tangled. I guess right because Darren Till is supposed to be fighting
And
Jack Hermanson. Derek Brunson. I would like to see Derek Brunson maybe go against Costa, get Costa back with an impressive fin or not. Kevin Gastelum versus Jared Cannonier would be an interesting fight. I don't think that happens, but I think I would like to see that. I think Kelvin is also still 2 fights away from fighting for the belt.
I'll say this: if Uriah Hall can beat Anderson Silva, there's your Jared Cannonier fight.
Agreed. Agreed. I didn't want to call it too early because Silva is still in great condition.
He is,
It's
but if Uriah Hall can do it,
yeah.
that is the one. That is the one fight that would make sense.
Okay, that's fair. That's
Yeah.
very fair.
But yeah, anything else on this card that stuck out to you or that you want to talk about?
Casey versus Nathaniel Wood was an impressive back and forth at a catchweight 140. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
good God, those gentlemen. If Robert Whitaker, I think was Robert Whitaker the fight of the night,
No,
or was
the one if I just mentioned Nathaniel Wood versus Casey Kenny.
yeah. There's a reason that those two guys won fight of the night. I think it's just from the pressure. Casey Kenny is showing crazy evolution.
Right.
Right? This is the guy who had lost to Merab Davishvili,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, who's a 135 who's on the tear right now because he has really good wrestling, really good cardio, and keeps it up. He lost to that guy because of wrestling. If Casey Kenny can stuff takedowns, if Casey Kenny can figure out those positions, his striking is great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a testament to his growth over those last 4 fights. So if Casey Kenny can just tweak that wrestling a little more and not getting those takedowns, or if he can prevent those, Casey Kenny is going to be a top 5 guy in the next, I want to say, next 8 months. And Nathaniel Wood, he's so big for that weight class. He's just so big. I'm interested to see how that bantamweight title really ends out because those two guys are going to fight again, in my opinion.
With Nathaniel Wood, I'm just trying to see like where does he go from here? Yeah, where does he go from here?
In my opinion, I think that was leading into the 3rd round. I had them 1-1, right?
Right.
Casey Kenny pulled it out in the last one. I think Nathaniel Wood, he's still there. There's no way he's not. He's a tough fight for most people because Nathaniel Wood, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he finish before he fought this guy?
No, I think he lost. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, or 3 maybe.
No, he lost to John Dotson, beat John Castaneda, and then lost to Casey Kenny. So
okay, he was coming back from a loss.
Yeah, well, he's come back from a win.
Okay, yes.
He was fighting on the same fight card as Whitaker until he did a pretty good performance there. I think he's not out. I think he just has to develop a little bit more. He's still young, so it's possible.
You know what the thing is? The thing with Nathaniel Wood was, I think, and sometimes this could be a hindrance, is when you're heavily touted and heavily promoted as like the next big thing.
Coming off, yeah,
it can have an effect on you. And I think that he still is really good. He showed it in this fight, but it does beg the question of, okay, can he string together a win streak enough in the UFC to where he is going to go to a top 15 opponent?
I think he will. I think he will.
I think he can. I think he can too.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't. When it gets to that top 15, that top 10, that top 5, we need to see growth. But we'll get that over time, right? Yeah. He was a Cage Warrior bantam champion. And Cage Warriors, tough guys for the lower classes at over there in Europe. So I mean, hey, it's possible. But I agree with you. When you're touted so heavily, and you don't, again, he didn't live up. It's not like he didn't live up to the hype, right? He didn't get demolished in this fight. The fight was very back and forth from round 1 to round 3. It's just that over the course of the round, the damage on Nathaniel Wood ended up being more than it was on Casey Kenny.
Right.
So that was a great fight. What about you?
For me, the fight that stuck out to me was Phil Hawes. Phil Hawes' debut. I think Phil Hawes had a great debut. 18 seconds against Jacob Malcolm. He was somebody that people have been talking about for a while now, and he finally got to game his UFC debut and he showed out.
That hurt. That looked like it hurt. He caught him with this left. That was like I I'm watching last night. I'm like, not last night, but in the afternoon. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, it was really, really impressive to see, and I'm excited to see where he goes from next. Lauren Murphy gets a special shout out because Lauren Murphy takes a fight that was really risky. She's supposed to fight Cynthia Calvillo. Takes this fight against somebody that was a huge prospect for the flyweight division, and she goes out and as a veteran just handles the job and was able to use the momentum of Lily. Lily Shikarova. Hey, I got it. Lily Shikarova.
You love to see it, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 30. Episode what? 34. The man did it. Wow.
The growth. But Laura Murphy was able to use the veteranship to use the momentum of Lily, and as Lily is slowing down, Laura Murphy just speeding up, and able to have that consistent pressure, able to
Yeah.
get the submission victory. I'm very impressed by Laura Murphy. Is she title shot red? Is she title shot next? I think she's more deserving than Jennifer Maia, but
Yeah. One and one in.
yeah, timing wise didn't work out, but I'm interested to see
No.
Laura Murphy versus you could do Jessica Andrade, honestly.
Honestly, let's get that Cynthia Calvillo fight back on. That's a good fight. That was going to be a really good fight.
So if Cynthia Calvillo fights Laura Murphy, are we saying the number one contender as of right now is Jessica Andrade?
I mean, when you look at the rankings for the women's flyweight division, with Jessica Andrade, okay, realistically, Jessica Andrade would have to fight the winner of Calvillo versus Laura Murphy. Or you got those three. There has to be some way sorted between those three, right? Because finishing, what's her name? Caitlin Chukagian.
Yep.
In an impressive fashion that she did, you don't get that everywhere, right? You don't get that at all. So with that statement being said to a former title tender, you have three people at the top now: Lauren Murphy, Cynthia Calvillo, and Jessica Andrade. Somehow either one of them gets the title and the other two fight, or that has to be solved between them three, in my opinion. I don't know who's the number one. It's too early for me to say the number one clear-cut contender, in my opinion. But if you feel differently, please let me know.
Yeah, I think Jessica Andrade, either she's the number one contender or she's fighting somebody for the number one contender. Like I think her victory is more impressive than what Cynthia Calvillo was able to do, and it's more impressive than what honestly Laura Murphy has done. Even though Laura Murphy is probably the one that's been most consistent. You also got to add to the fact of Jessica Andrade being a former champion, and with Valentin Shevchenko, you need to have somebody that is an adversary that has some credibility. And I think Jennifer Maia is someone where right place, right time. And
literally.
Yeah. And that's not to discredit her. It's just the way it is. And
it's just right.
And Jessica Andrade is somebody where you put that on a marquee, Jessica Andrade versus Valentina Shevchenko, that is a main event, and that should be the main event of a fight night or on a pay-per-view, I think.
Co-main event.
Or co-main event, either way.
Yeah.
Either way.
I agree.
I do feel bad. I do feel bad for Lilia. Sharkova, yes. Again, 2 for 2. One, it was a birthday, and then two, people were saying that this is not me. People were saying that she liked someone from the Beatles, and that she liked
Shakirova is her name. I apologize.
Shakirova. She liked somebody from the Beatles and somebody from looked like Ricky Rubio. I thought that was hilarious, but in all honesty, I do feel sorry for her, especially on her debut. She was also talking a lot, I believe, about Laura Murphy too, heading into the fight.
Yeah. I mean, listen, she's in the UFC now. She's good. Name's out there.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
The Ricky Rubio thing was funny to me. I'm sorry. The Ricky Rubio comment was hilarious. But nonetheless, great fight for Laura Murphy. And I think that's pretty much on this card. If I was to rate it, I would have rated A+.
I'm gonna go solid A.
Okay.
I don't know about A+, but I don't disagree with you. It's definitely A worthy. It's definitely A worthy. Just what happened with the lead up, the actual fights taking place, the movement of division, Khabib retiring. It's an A, solid A for me.
Yeah, A+ for me, just because I feel like every fight delivered, and again, you get these rare moments where the main event makes or breaks a great card, and this main event delivered a moment that will stand the test of time for the UFC. So that's why it's getting an A+ for me.
There's only, just to let you know, there was only 3 decisions on this card.
Yeah. Flew by. We probably could have finished the card by 4:30 in the East, but they had to drag the shit out. So
3 o'clock.
Yeah. So But that's my rating for the card. So we're gonna be off for the next 2 fight cards. We're not doing a show for Halloween, and we're not gonna do a show for November 7th. I think the next the fight card we're gonna review is the 24th. The 24th. Yeah. But we may do something special as maybe a pre-show or something leading up to next pay-per-view. So that should be fun.
Sure.
Yeah. So Levy, Flat Politics, we appreciate you for watching. We appreciate all the viewers for watching. If you
thank you again for subscribing.
Low Code especially. If you're a new viewer or if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Please subscribe. Let us know what you think of the show. Click the notification button. You never know when we'll go live or when we'll do something surprising. We get an interview or something. So definitely thank you to everybody that watched, and we wish you all a nice day. Signing off, my name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This is MMA Renegade episode 34. Have a nice day, guys, and stay safe.